On today's episode of You Don't Deserve a Recording Studio, we are going to be ranking all of the $500 or less beginner interface options that are out there on the market, so we can figure out who is actually going to give you that multi-million-dollar studio sound that they all claim to be able to give you. Spoiler alert, only a few of them do that. Let's dive into it. All right, before we jump in, I want to define our term. So up here at the top, of course, we've got God tier because this is a rank list and that's at the top of every rank list. Then below that, we've got excellent for the price, because price is always a factor, isn't it? And then you've got good enough because it'll do the job. It's fine. And then below that, you got meh, which is really how I feel about some of these. And then at the very bottom, the bottom of the barrel, the trash bin, you've got, don't do it, Nathan. Don't do it. I don't know if your name is Nathan, but if you are a Nathan, don't do it. All right, let's jump right in. So first interface we have up is the Audient EVO series. Now these are interesting, and I need to give a little context. I am a mixing, mastering engineer, musician, and I record music, and I mix music, and sometimes voiceover, and I work in film. My priorities are going to be very different than a lot of others. I will always have that lens on it, right? So the EVO series, I feel like is geared a little bit more towards streamers, and so for that, I just meh. The preamps are clinical. They don't really give you anything that you want. They're not terrible, but they're not great. They're benign. It's a benign tumor. It doesn't do anything for me. Conversion is meh. Everything else about it is meh. It just adds the convenience of auto gain, which matters not at all to me because I've been gain staging for 25 years. And then it's a nice little brick. It's portable and it can plug into an iPhone. All right, next up, we've got the the Antelope Audio, the Zen Go. This is like their portable interface. I am a big fan of Antelope Audio stuff, and I'm like in between these two, but okay, I'm going to go with excellent for the price, and here's why. I think they're making a mistake. Antelope Audio. If you're watching, please mute this part of the video and just skip ahead by 20 seconds. So Antelope Audio is doing the thing that a lot of other interface companies are doing, which is they are putting onboard DSP into their interfaces. I do not really care for that so much. It was cool when the Apollo stuff started doing that. Back when that first came out, it was like, oh my gosh, you can put plugins on your tracks and it doesn't tax your computer. That's amazing. And it was for the time. But truth be told, computers have gotten so much better that even using the UA like host plugins, like I can throw those things on like a 48 track session or 72 track session and not really worry about it. So it's not really a big deal. And it's like, oh, you can use them while tracking. Okay, I guess that's nice, you know? But for me, it's not like a game changer. And also the plugins that they make are, I think UA's plugins are a little better. So they kind of doubled and tripled down on that as their strategy because a lot of people are doing that. But let's be honest, they're on the tailpipe of Universal Audio. They're not innovating. The thing that they do incredibly well, though, and the reason why they're up here and excellent for the price, is conversion is maybe best in class. I don't know if I'm like 100% in saying that, but the conversion that Antelope Audio has, like conversion and clocking and like detail, nuance, clarity is phenomenal. So if I am mixing, that is what I am looking for. The preamps that are built in are fine, maybe a little bit better than the EVO, not as good as some of the others in the list, but they're fine. They'll do the job. But oh man, for what you're paying for, you actually do get a lot. So they're good. All right, next up, the Behringer, the Uphoria series. This is going to surprise a lot of people. Excellent for the price. Maybe it's not a surprise at all to you. The reason why is like how much do these things cost new? Like $16? Like it's so cheap. It's not 16. It's like 70 or something like that. But it's the ones that have the Midas preamps that are built into it. Those are the best ones. And it's like conversion is fine. I/O, it doesn't really do anything phenomenal or, industry leading. Like nothing about it is fantastic. If we were judging it just on sound and sound alone, meh and good enough, somewhere in between there. But because it only costs like $80, Behringer's killing it with just giving us like stuff for cheap right now. And like the stuff is good for what you pay for. It's always going to have that caveat and that footnote, but for what you pay, it's actually great. All right. Black Lion Audio, the Revolution. This is a misunderstood interface. All right, I'm going to go excellent for the price. Here's why it's misunderstood. Black Lion Audio filled a gap in the industry that I think needed to be serviced, but maybe failed a little bit in marketing. Here's the thing. They decided to focus on sound as opposed to specs. All of the reviews that I have seen of the Black Lion Audio have given it the spec test. They talk about the specs and how many dBs of dynamic range it has. And let's just be totally honest, like no one cares how many dBs of dynamic range your interface has if you are recording your song through it. Like when they're listening to your song, they do not care. They don't care about latency. They don't care about that kind of stuff. What they care about is, does it sound good? Do I like this song? And then secondly, does it sound good? Right? Here's the thing about Black Lion Audio. Their clocking and their conversion are phenomenal. And they've built like a fully discrete path. I don't know if I'm using the right words because I'm not an electrical engineer, but like they did things like decoupling stuff and other fancy things. They used to modify interfaces to do what this interface does. And I can tell you, being a person who has used Black Lion modified interfaces, that modification makes a huge difference. And so this interface, you get a lot of bang for the buck, but you don't get ADAT expansion. You don't get DSP or onboard effects. And it seems like everybody really cares about that these days. So they don't give you anything like that. But if you care about your signal path and conversion and clocking and getting that 3-dimensional sound, Black Lion Audio does that. The preamps are pretty okay. They're not massive, they don't give you a ton of gain, but like they sound pretty okay. And then the headphone amp on that thing is probably best in class. You don't get a better headphone amp until you're spending like either over $1,000 or buying an independent headphone amp. Phenomenal units. I love them. All right. The Motu, the M series, the M2, the M4, good enough. I mean, I wish I could talk more about these. They sound fine. Conversion's good. Preamps are clean. They're good enough. Like, there's nothing exciting about it. It's benign. It's fine, right? All right, Presonus, the Quantum series. I'm going to put it in good enough, and that might make some people mad. There's something that always happens with Presonus stuff, which is if I'm listening to a mix or listening just through like the I/O of like the Presonus Quantum, and then I compare that to even like the Universal Audio Apollo, which I'm not like the hugest fan of their conversion, I will always choose the other one because it like, even if it was between that and the Black Lion Audio, I'd choose the Black Lion Audio every day. There's something about the conversion and like how the audio is captured and recorded that it makes it seem like there's this glass panel and you're kind of looking through the glass panel and you're seeing this performance happen, but it doesn't sound like you're in the room. And the Black Lion Audio can actually make it sound as though you are in the room with what you are listening to. And so that's the reason why the Presonus doesn't get bumped up to excellent for the price. So then the other Presonus stuff. This is the older one. They still sell these. This is like their Studio C or something. Meh. Here's the thing. The Quantum did one really serious upgrade from these older units, though, which is the X-Max preamps. Those preamps, the X-Max preamps, were the same preamps that were in the FirePod from like 2004. Same exact preamps. And those preamps didn't sound awful, but they always sounded a little bit flat. And like no matter what, anything that was recorded with those Presonus X-Max preamps, like I could not get it to glue into the mix. Like even when it was like voiceover, it just seemed like everything was, I don't know, just couldn't get it to sound good. So X-Max preamps are the thing that actually takes this down to meh. They removed the X-Max preamps and it does sound better, and the Quantum is good enough. Okay, Steinberg, the UR series. It's like the UR22 and 44. Don't do it, Nathan. There's like, as someone who is a fan of Cubase, I use Cubase for all my mixing and mastering and recording that I do here. And like, I was hoping for like integration and, you know, maybe for something with a really nice preamp or something like that. And they do make units that have Neve preamps built into it, like the Rupert Neve Designs preamps, I should say. And those are better, but like the conversion's not great. Everything's very two-dimensional, very flat. There's just nothing exciting about it. Don't do it, Nathan. Don't do that. All right. Audient ID24, straight to God tier. Yep, I'm confident in that. Here's the thing. Conversion's phenomenal. The preamps that are in those things are console-grade preamps. They sound really, really good. A little bit clean, a little bit clinical for my taste, but they sound really, really good. You can get that 3D sound out of that interface all day. The headphone amp is good. The one downside that I really have is that on the main monitor outputs, it does start to distort a little once you push it. But outside of that, like if you're in a comfortable listening volume, it's great. Crystal clear. Like I love a flat frequency response. I don't want anything to change the sound of what I'm listening to. I want to be the one that makes all those creative decisions, not the gear, you know? So that way it's like, oh, if like the low end is muddy, I don't want to be like trying to scoop it out or clean it up or notch it out or something like that. If, oh, it's actually just my interface, you know, or like, oh, that top end is so sweet and sparkly. We'll get to that. There's an interface that does that. And like, oh, it's such a lovely sounding top end. And so you boost it up and then you bounce out your mix. And then you're like, oh my gosh, it's harsh and sibilant because, oh, I was listening on that interface, which again is coming up. Other reasons why I like the ID24, you can bypass the preamps because it's got that insert, send, and return. So like you can go out of your like Neve preamp or whatever you have, and then you can route the output of that to the insert return, and it'll bypass the preamp and it'll go straight to the converter chip. That's so handy. Your chain is only as strong as your weakest link. And so if I'm also like, you know, patching in like an 1176 or something like that, I am going to want to send that back to my interface without hitting that preamp, because why would I, you know, record something and use like an API or a Neve or a Grace Design or like whatever like nice preamp you have, and then send it out of that to a compressor only to send it back through the budget interface preamp. Like that doesn't make any sense. So I love the ID24. I think it's a great interface and I will recommend that all day, every day. Okay. Also, you can expand it via ADAT. So if you need more inputs, like it's super easy. Okay. SSL 12 or SSL2, not the 12. SSL2 Mark Dose. Good enough. The SSL2 Mark 1 would have been in meh, but SSL2 Mark II is good enough. They made some upgrades that I liked. The preamps are the same, which they're fine. They're a little flat sounding. The 4K makes things harsh sounding. It's like you have to choose between like flat and dull or way too like harsh and top heavy, you know? I don't like that. Although they do sound good with an SM7B. That's like the one microphone in situation where I actually like the SSL preamps with the 4K. an SM7B for podcasting. If that is your only use and that's all you need an interface for, yeah, SSL2, I'll recommend that for you. I think that would be great. But for everything else, the preamps are not great. You can't bypass the preamps, even though it's got like a line switch. It's not an actual line input. It's actually just like a 15 or 20 dB pad on the preamp that's built in. That's terrible. However, they did make some upgrades, so you can do 32-bit recording on the Mark II as opposed to 24. I think that's going to be the way forward in the future. They're one of the first companies to really start doing that, so I'm impressed with that. And then the headphone amplifier on the Mark II is a lot better. It's a lot louder. It's not neutral, but it's louder, so it's good. So it's good enough. It'll do the job. All right. This may surprise a bunch of people. This is the Universal Audio, the Volt series. Meh. I know. I honestly, I'm not the biggest Universal Audio fan. I like their plugins a lot. And honestly, if they were a plugin company and a hardware company, like studio hardware, like outboard compressors and preamps and stuff, I would be like, oh, they're amazing. I have never been a huge fan of their interfaces. It's always been this thing of like, for mixing and mastering, I want to, like I said, hear everything neutral and flat. I want to make the creative choices. I don't want you to. And that interface that gives you that sparkly top end, there's something about it, but it's every Universal Audio interface sounds very Universal Audio-y, if that makes sense. Like, it sweetens up the top end. It gives it like this saturation, and it sounds real nice when you're listening, but that's always a dangerous thing. You never want everything to sound really nice straight out of the gate, because chances are once you bounce it out and you start listening in a car or on your phone or through a, Bluetooth speaker, which, I've got on my desk for reference, like, that's when the truth comes out of if your mix is good and balanced. So I could never do that. The preamps in it are fine. The conversion's fine. There's nothing amazing about the Volt. It's good. It'll get you into the ecosystem, but I don't like the outputs on it or the headphone amp. It's just not great. All right. Here's the one I'm sure a lot of you have been waiting for. This is the Focusrite Scarlett. Technically, this is the Gen 4. I think that's the picture I've got. I hope I have the right picture. I've used the Gen 4 and I've used the Gen 1 and the Gen 2. I haven't used the Gen 3. The Gen 1 and the Gen 2, like the Gen 1, like for context, when I got my 18i20 in whenever it came out, it was like the week those things came out, I got one. I hadn't really even heard of it. I had heard of Focusrite before because I knew they're like high-end like studio equipment. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I took it home and it was an upgrade for my Presonus FirePod, and it did really good. And I was like, oh my gosh, these are clean preamps. This is great. They don't color anything. And oh my gosh, the outputs on the speakers, like my speakers sound better. Like everything started sounding better. It was an upgrade. So for the time, it was amazing. But every interface company caught up and even surpassed them really soon after that. So that's why I'm not like, dogging on the, the Focusrite stuff. They were a game changer in the industry. But the Gen 4, which is what we're talking about here, it's in between good enough and excellent for the price. I'm going to put it in good enough. All right, here's the deal. The conversion got a massive upgrade. This is now the same converters that are in the RedNet stuff, which the Focusrite Red, if you're not familiar, is phenomenal. That's all pro level stuff. So they got the converters from the Red series. That's amazing in and of itself. And then they upgraded the headphone output and a couple other things. But like generally speaking, they sound good for what they are, with the one drawback, which is their preamps. Oh man. Okay. Focusrite preamps always do this. Every session that I've ever mixed or heard that I've gotten from a client, the vocals sound sibilant. The guitars sound too pronounced in the upper mids. Everything competes for space in the upper mids because it just pushes it out so much. And ultimately, that becomes such a challenge trying to get everything to sit in the mix where I need it to, even with EQ and even with compression and all these other tools. The Focusrite, there's also that other thing where it's like, because of those preamps, anything that was recorded through a Focusrite, it sounds like there's this thin layer of glass in between you and the performance. Like you're not in the same room. It's not three-dimensional like it is with the Antelope or the Black Lion or the Audient. Like those give you that 3D sound. The Focusrite is still two-dimensional, and it actually takes a lot of work to get stuff that's recorded through a Focusrite to sound at a pro level. I've done it. Here's a mix I've done. And that was a mix that was done, and I know for a fact that the interface was used was a, I think, 3rd generation Focusrite 2i2, and maybe the 18i20 as well. I think the drummer has an interface, and then the guitar player has an interface, and they kind of bounce back and forth between the two of them. And then they send all the tracks to me, and then I take them and mix them. And so you see what I'm working with, but it's always a challenge. I can get it there, but it's just tough and takes extra finesse. And typically stuff that's recorded through the Focusrite, you know how people are like, oh, music today is so overcompressed. It takes a lot more processing to get the Focusrite to sound good, so it sounds over-processed, which I think is what most people mean when they say overcompressed. It's just heavily processed. And once something is heavily processed, it does take some of the life out of the recording, you know? So the Focusrite, it takes life out of the recording. It takes a lot of processing to get to sound good. So I can't put it in excellent for the price. It's good enough. That's where it's at. All right, let's review this. This made a nice little symmetrical pyramid situation. Yeah, okay, so the Antelope I want to put in God tier, but yeah, no, it's just because of the software. The software is such a learning curve, and I have had to call Antelope Audio at least 10 times in the last 2 years of my audio career for troubleshooting, and that sucks and should not be a thing, especially this day and age. Yep, no, I'm confident in that. Let's lock it in. That's my tier list of every $500 or less beginner budget interface that I have personally used. So if you got something out of this video, please hit the like and subscribe. I want to get to 1,000 subscribers really soon. So if you enjoyed this video, please press the buttons. Help me out. All right. See ya.